Namo Tassa. In this video, I want to touch on the notion of simplicity versus complexity. I have made videos about that before, but just again today I posted some things about that, and there were a few different quotes that came up. So just maybe trying to put it again in a different way, different perspective, trying to keep it a little bit simple, even though, at the end everything is connected, everything is related in this society, because there is a reason why everything is more complicated and purposely made more complicated, again as part of that agenda to disconnect more and more people, human beings, from the Dharma. And actually the proper Dharma, as the basic original teaching of the Buddha, are just very simple. And that's the point. Why the Buddha's teaching and practice are meant to be really simple, yet most people who get into that say that it's really hard. And it is exactly because they are used to a very complicated life or lifestyle, and also as the other bad classic excuse for not being able to meditate is to say that they are too busy. So why are you so busy? It's because life has been purposely made more complicated so that you have less opportunity to take time for yourself and to go within and relax and just take time for yourself and observe inside. Of course, everything has been made to make life more complicated with more and more things and more access to many things, so that people's mind get really teased and ultimately addicted to so many things that at the end they don't have time actually for properly relaxing the mind and take time for themselves. I will just mention the quotes just to give you a relation to what I'm talking about, and also the angle this time is exactly connected to that notion again that most humans, of course, and scientists will be proud to say that we have progressed, so-called progressed, so much with technology, and now we have such advanced technology, supposedly. But that is the point, that technological progress, as one quote says, might be also what has made us go more backwards, exactly because the minds are not following. And maybe I will touch on that later, but of course the latest big thing, supposedly big thing lately, is AI, right? As the most ultimate latest technological advancement, which is not very much an advancement. Again, it's all marketing, it's all to make it a big hype and for some new companies to get big grants, right? Big fundings. When you see the valuation of the AI companies now, and supposedly the new technology with the microchips adapted for AI, which are just supercomputers, that's all, of course, as it was meant to happen anyway. But it's big business and big money involved. At the same time, they call it artificial intelligence, but of course there's not much intelligence in that. First of all, because again, it was created by regular humans, even though they are engineers, PhD, whatever, or smart, nerdy dropouts like Bill Gates or Zuckerberg, who are actually dropouts, and that in one way promotes a new trend to say to people that you don't need to study so much, because if you are talented, you will make it through anyway. But at the same time, those people think that they are really smart and they create new technologies or new ways, but understand that actually those people, especially those ones, don't have the best interest in mind. They have no Dhamma, of course, in their mind, and they just want modern slaves, in a sense of now mental slaves. I talked before about the modern slavery of the society, of course, which is the point, to create modern slaves as far as work schedule and being so busy again. But what those tech geeks want with the companies is to have also mental slaves, so to have a total addiction to their devices and softwares, so you can be glued on those devices all the time, as much time as possible, even if they pretend to care about your health and to try to warn you that those screens are not good for you, or the radiations, but actually they still create new ways to make you more and more addicted to spend more time on them. And all of this, of course, as much as you will be addicted to that outside world and devices, technological devices, then is the less time that you make for yourself to just sit down, relax, and just be within. So of course you will develop more and more newer type, as we see already, of neurological patterns and symptoms in actually modern psychology now, and they have all those initials now, of course, the ADD, ADHD, or how do they call it in English? HIP, I guess, high intellectual potential, supposedly, which are just, again, on the verge of autism. People who are just very hyper with their mind, like the Elon Musk type, which many people consider a genius, but is far from being a genius or far from being really an intelligent. He's just a smart geek with a very hyperactive mind, and that's all that is. And there's no wisdom in that person, actually. It's only about his pursuing of his childhood dreams, and that's one example. Anyway, the quote today were about again, once more, maybe a short one from this British philosopher writer Aldous Huxley, who said that yes, technological progress has merely provided us with more efficient means for going backwards. And I have written something before, which I reposted today, which was exactly that, as in my home country, at least in France, for a long time we have had that kind of a little saying as a joke, which is, why doing simple when you can do complicated? Of course, ironically, because that still reflects what's happening. So this is the whole nonsense of this society. And also, actually, I have mentioned before to many people and a long time before that there was a French comedy which is a bit dated now. It's from 1996, but it was made as a comedy, although it got a little bit of censor because it was exposing a little bit the reality of the nonsense of this society and the evolution compared to what would be an ideal human society, really, exactly kind of aligned with the Dharma values. And these people live on another planet. They left Earth at the time. But that movie is called The Beautiful Green or The Green Beautiful, depends which way you look at it, for the original French version or English subtitles. But it's a French movie, French comedy, but it was exposing quite a bit. Anyway, it was explaining that nonsense, of course, of technological progress and everything more complicated, but actually just making basically people's lives more messy. For example, also I remember a documentary from this Swedish woman, I forgot her name, exactly as a typical example, again from the modern ways or people, governments, influential people, corporate guys, they will always try to and even people from the poor countries, they would say, well, there's no point to praise poverty, we are glad for progress, improvement, and new technology. Well, we see what it brings usually in this kind of society. And there was in that documentary called The Economics of Happiness, the example of Ladakh, that you can say little province in the very northern India, Kashmir, close to China, in the Himalaya. And there was, of course, the famous Ladakh Buddhist simple life, hard life in the high altitude of the Himalaya. But also there was that simple classic lifestyle. And then, of course, one day they managed to create a road to access that the main city there, Leh, in Ladakh. And of course, then the whole society changed. And that's exactly one example of that evolution. Even though from the modern standpoint, of course, people look down on this and they say those poor people, it's poor life, it's hard life, but they had, the regular life, and it was the routine, and it was the way it was. And then basically the road gave access to modernity, and then suddenly many things could be brought there. And exactly for that woman who has seen Leh, that town, before and after, of course there was a big shock when she came back, because you see the evolution. Yes, modernity has come, technology has come, but what you see is now a lot of people also hanging around in the city, not doing much and kind of being lost. And also, of course, more alcohol, more smoking, more drugs, as usual. So because most of the humans are controlled by the kilesa and fall easily down into those classic traps. So, but that's what the modern society wants, actually. Again, with always the same goal, to control more the people and make them more addicted. So they are clinging, and it has a grip. The system has the grip on you then, and you become dependent on the system. People knew how to live by themselves to survive, actually, back then in those conditions. Now they don't know any of those things anymore. They don't know how to take care of themselves anymore. They become dependent on the system, of course. And so back also Ubakin had made Sayaji Ubakin had made that quote, right? Exactly, also related to the notion of happiness, the way he puts it. When you say what is happiness, and for all that science has achieved in the field of materialism, are the people of the world happy? Well, again, I'll let you be the judge. They may find sensual pleasures off and on, which is the point. The system is well thought through by those evil human beings to give you just enough to give you the illusion that your lifestyle has improved and that you can enjoy more now, and then you can crave more and more of that, but actually it's an on and off thing, and then you start to make yourself very dependent, like caught up in the trap of having to work or to be part of that system to be able to have access to these things that you have, of course, developed an addiction for. And then here's the vicious cycle, right? So you are trapped in that. But he says, but in their hearts of hearts, they are not happy when they realize what has happened exactly and what may happen next. And this is because while man has mastery over matter more and more, he's still lacking the mastery over his mind. Exactly. So again, the whole pride of such supposedly technological advancement, but actually the mind hasn't followed. And especially with AI now, we are reaching the point exactly where technology is too advanced for how much people have control of their mind, or the kilesa, basically, of the mind, and they don't have enough awareness. And of course, so many people, especially the one who wants to control the world, who have the power to do so, and who are managing all those decisions, as we see lately, the main meeting, that's official meeting in Davos, in Switzerland, which is exactly the meeting of these people who think of themselves as the leaders of the world, who are here to decide which direction the world should go, right? And I tell you, of course, it's definitely the opposite direction from Dhamma. But they are very happy to feel successful in that way. And so, again, everything is, and that's why they show also lately, for example, that they don't care about the environment. The climate is really changing, of course, and it's becoming really a serious issue. Definitely. There is, the two schools, and some people deny some things, whatever. But again, we can never trust science anymore, because half of those scientists that make official claims and studies are sold out to those people or those corporations, or to the lobbying, right? Of course. So we cannot trust anybody anymore. Cannot trust the news, official news, of course. Cannot trust science and scientists, as we have seen during COVID. And I hope more and more people keep realizing now with more and more studies and facts that, the big scam that the COVID vaccine was, again, from the same people. So, but again, everything is made more and more complicated also, so that people have less and less the means to rebel against it, to do something about it, because they feel more and more caught up in the system and no way to get out. And before, there were some revolutions, right? People could manage to gather in a local scale or national scale, basically, like the French Revolution for us back in the days. But the point of this system, to make everything more and more complicated by the same people, is to make it global and very advanced technologically, so that there's no way, even for a huge group of people, to gather and manage to take over the control of that. So that's the point of making everything more advanced technologically, but also more and more complicated. And back to our basically main topic in one way, as far as I'm concerned, and also what I was saying is exactly because now, and the new generations, of course, are born in that. They don't know better. That's why they have developed all those neurological patterns and symptoms. Then when they want to, especially in the so-called Buddhist cultures now, some of them want to try to get into Buddhism because they have heard that it's good, from the previous generations, and they can feel inside, of course, deep in yourself, you would know that proper Dhamma is the best thing for your own life and for your own mental health, and ultimately where true happiness resides. But then they want to try to get into meditation. They try to do those retreats, and for those generation, the latest generation, it becomes really harder and harder to practice meditation, of course. Both exactly, again, because everything is more complicated, so their mind has become very, very complicated and addicted to so many things. So it's difficult to get back to simple and to relax, and because they have developed those mental patterns, they don't know how to just keep it simple and relaxed in the mind. And that's why some people say back then, at the time of the Buddha, before Christ, like this, or centuries before Christ, whatever, of course, life was more simple like that. And that's exactly one way to say that actually a simple mind was maybe more an advantage to be able to understand and practice Dhamma, exactly because life was simple and people knew how to focus on only a few things in their life, and that's what life was about, because they had to focus on what keeps you alive. Again, life was that simple, and I have also practiced a bit of that myself as, again, what you can call the basics of survival. And actually the life itself as the basic of survival comes down to very, very few things, and we actually put it back to 4 things, and even within these 4 things only 2 matters most. And also that's the way you can see that's how you can die as far as priorities. So first thing is water. You need to be able, of course, to deal with water and find water, drinkable water. Again, thanks to all those technological advancements, now there's no clean water really in the world anymore. So that's one thing. Then, of course, second is the food. And again, because of all that and the technology to produce more efficiently the food, there are many documentaries about that too. For me, again, one of the first one back in the days that explained already a lot was the documentary called Food Inc. And then there was a follow-up after that, and anyway, and then there are so many now. But yeah, exactly. Try to mix up too much technology in the production of food, which should be actually naturally available in nature, and that's the way it should be, the best for you. But for the sake of business, productivity, or so-called efficiency, then they have introduced all the poisons, all the chemicals, and anyway, so, but people still kind of manage to survive. They develop all those diseases and all the mental patterns with that, but it's part of the norm now, so it's okay, it's accepted. And at the same time, the big pharmaceutical industry find some drugs, chemical drugs, to adjust to that, and they use it. Of course, they use them people as experiments, guinea pigs for that combination of poisoned food and chemical drugs to match and make everything kind of keep working together. So anyway, that's for the notion of survival and what you need really for a simple life, right? The secret to a simple life. And that's as a recluse, right? For the monks, it should be like that. And then you need some, in survival practice, you say you need a shelter, but again, it depends where you live. Actually, that has to do with the weather or temperature. So actually, you might not need really some real shelter when the temperature or the weather is nice, but and then for anyone, as humans have become weaker and weaker with the weather, because we have developed, again, thanks to technology, you have developed more and more comfortable life, and everybody is claiming the right for comfort and convenience. But again, it was very thought through from the leaders to make you more and more dependent and addicted to that. But that exactly takes away, again, many of your original natural abilities to live and survive the natural way, which is the healthy way also. So that's why you are less and less healthy, being happy to have found or developed more and more comfortable and convenient life thanks to technology, right? That has actually make you more and more useless and less healthy the natural way. That's the point. So exactly by being very sheltered that way, then your body has become weaker and weaker, and that's why you have all these new kind of disease coming up also, and everything. But there was the notion of shelter, and then for the monks also, then you would need some robes. There are some codes about that too, but I mean, ultimately, and you can see like also maybe more from the Hindu side in India, but again, when the weather is okay and the temperatures are nice, you don't really need clothing ultimately, of course. That's again more like cultural conditioning also about the whole idea of hiding the body and stuff, which has created again some other kind of patterns. But anyway, but your body is happy breathing as it was meant originally by itself, with the skin exposed to the elements, and but there is that. And then fire, we can say fire originally, of course, that has turned into modern energy or electricity, again, to make everything more comfortable and convenient. But then, as we see now, and right now when there's a big snowstorm, winter storm, and it paralyzes the grid, the electrical grid, and suddenly people feel so helpless and useless. and feel so sorry for themselves because they have made their life for the sake of convenience and comfort so dependent on the grid, on electricity. Then when there's no more electricity, that's it. They don't know what to do. And they are so lost. But original simple life, was the basic again with the fire, and that's it. And you can live with those things. Of course, the fire for cooking, but again, as some people say, well, if you don't know how to cook, how do you eat? But many foods don't require cooking by themselves. You can eat them as they are from nature, as nature provides them. So whatever you grow or you pick up from trees or, as fruits. So, and actually that's the point. In one way, humans, after so many thousands of years, have adapted to their own areas of the world. So, but nature most of the time will provide you what you need in this area anyway. That's why humans have managed to survive for so many thousands of years that way, the simple way, but in harmony with nature, until the new technology, industrial revolution, especially in the 19th century. And then it was all business and try to make people more and more addicted and dependent. Again, try to make you feel more rich, have a more luxurious, nice, convenient and comfortable life. But that's how the vicious cycle started. And what I was saying again about that, coming back to our main thing, is all that is why most people have a hard time to meditate, even though they are asked as proper meditation to do the most simple thing in the world. There's no more simple thing you can be asked to do than to meditate, as far as what real basic meditation is. Sit down, relax, close your eyes. Don't think about anything, only focus on one point. Usually it's good to take the breath as a basic classic meditation. Observe the breath, that's it. Nothing more simple in life. And then suddenly everybody is like freaking out. Oh, I can't do it, it's too hard. I cannot relax my mind. Then my mind goes so fast. And then many people get also, defeated. Because suddenly they think that their mind is going crazy, like too fast or too much. No, that's exactly because society make you develop that kind of mind purposely, again to take you away from Dhamma, from a calm, controlled mind, but you don't notice it because exactly you're caught up in that every day, all the time. And even when you sleep, that's why you don't sleep well. That's why you need so many hours. Again, because you're not able to relax your mind. And your mind is in overdrive most of the time. And that's why, again, another thing in the modern world that they say, like so many people have experienced burnout at work, of course. But yeah, the whole notion of my mind gets so busy. No, the point is that when we ask somebody, as far as just meditation goes, to just start to relax and recenter and observe, take some time to observe yourself, then you will start to notice how busy your monkey mind, always grabbing a new tree, a new branch, a new thing. So it's just about a realization. It's not that you're going crazy doing meditation. It's just that you are made to realize what your mind is about all the time, except that in your everyday life, purposely, you are made to be so busy all the time with your mind all over the place, that you don't notice. You don't have time to notice. And that's the point again. When people say, I don't have time, I'm so busy. Yeah, exactly. That confirms at least that the agenda has worked so well. But it's not the reality actually that you discover when you meditate that you're going crazy. It's just that you don't realize it. And then the point is, when you start meditation, again, you are asked to do the most simple thing. And of course, for most people, they say it's the hardest thing, but still, that's just the most simple. Just sit down, ideally close your eyes and relax, and just start to learn to focus your mind on one point, on one thing, and concentrate and focus. Opposite of more and more ADD or ADHD in this society, of course, and new generation. So, and that's why, as nature has shown actually in many ways, and the old civilizations that way, the most simple usually means the most direct and most efficient. And that's also my experience. And most simple makes it very clear, usually clear, straight line, straight way. Again, society is, all over the place now, of course. So, but they make you believe that this is progress in intelligence, human intelligence, and it's all progress. But of course, that's not really the proper definition. So yeah, humans are really proud of that evolution, the technical advancements, and they call it progress. But at the end, does it look like the world is really going around smoothly, right? After so many thousands of years, and especially the 200 years of industrial revolution, and so many engineers and PhDs and researchers and professors and whatever, it should have made like some dare to claim that no, we are so advanced, we are such an advanced civilization, and that means that it should benefit the society, right? And it should have made life better, easier for most. Does it look like, again, most of the humans on Earth are living a harmonious life, are happy, are feeling balanced, relaxed, no stress? No, there's actually more and more stress. There's more and more diseases and more time off work because of stress, anxiety, burnout. In the developed countries, again, that notion of developed countries, right? There was another quote about that between so-called third world country and actually somebody in Thailand mentioned that if you're happy with your developed first world country and looking down on those poor people in the third world country, but like the one in Southeast Asia, like in Thailand, for example, in your first world country, that you pay so many taxes for that so-called advanced system and society, and you see so much developed criminality, and so many people are again anxious and stressed and not even feeling safe in the big cities, while here in that so-called third world country, people are a bit more relaxed, less stressed in general, more accepting, which is in line of the Dhamma values, and less afraid, they feel more safe in general in most situations. So again, a difference between so-called third world country and first world country, the developed one with the whole technology and progress and the brains working on these things, and the system that they consider more civilized and more advanced and looking down on those who live a very simple life, the old way. But actually, you look at a few of those groups or civilizations that live the simple life, and it looked actually much more harmonious in general. So there is a point about that. And so so what I was saying is that at the end, that's the point. Again, it isn't that. So yeah, I meant that in that video actually I, in one way, combine both awareness, as I mean there is awareness in the pure Dhamma sense of being aware actually through meditation, introspection of your human nature and the nature of the mind and the laws of nature, the Dhamma, the laws of the universe. But then there's also the other awareness about this society, modern society, and what is going on, and actually what is the goal in one way of a specific agenda, general agenda that some very evil-minded people have for the world, for mankind. And of course it's all about the control of these people. And so the point again, and back to the main thing, is this society, under the guise of development, progress, evolution, and technological progress, they have made everything more and more complicated, actually, not used in a smart way, because they're not smart, that's the point. Again, the mind hasn't followed. It's not made by people who have Dhamma in them, but they have greed for sure, Lobha and Dosa, and they want to make business and money as much as possible out of that, and to try to control as many people as they can to follow that system, to fall into it, and to make them slaves of that, which is happening for sure. The greatest majority of humans now are slaves of that complicated modern life, addicted to those new technologies for a purpose, and taking you away, of course, more and more from Dhamma, from being actually intelligent, from developing awareness and wisdom, and so that you can keep control over your mind. But these people want to control you, and that's actually as much as originally many technology were created also still in a good intention to serve a good purpose, a helpful purpose, but now they are mostly developed to control you, to make you addicted and dependent on them, so you cannot control yourself anymore. And for example, of course, and as we see again now lately at this time I'm making that video, for the advancement of the military again, everything is ramping up again for potentially another big war, of course, and a lot of the technological development is targeted towards new kind of weapons and warfare, which of course has a new type also nowadays, exactly because of that new technology that we have been discovering and using now for half a century, which is again the whole computer software, digital. And so now there is a cyber warfare as much as the weapon military warfare, and so much of the technological research and advancement nowadays is targeted towards that for a reason. But at the same time, the system of course needs to keep you as a good modern obedient slave, And they have managed, obviously, when you look around, to make people addicted to those technological devices and to make their mind more and more all over the place, uncontrolled, but controlled by these devices. That's the point. So you have less and less control over yourself, less and less control over your mind, and of course, less and less in connection with the Dhamma. And that's why meditation is harder and harder in one way for most. But again, if you can convince yourself to meditate properly, then you will become more and more aware of all that, and in one way recover some sanity which you hadn't realized that you had lost, which is the point, because everything has been done again in a clever way, clever, evil way, to make everything gradual so you don't notice it so much. And everything is presented that something is for your own good and for your own benefits and for it's all progress and it's all for a better life, but it's not. And again, back to simple lifestyle as a good renunciate, and you don't need to become a monk or a nun, but you can have that simple lifestyle and you will see that it makes life more harmonious and more appreciated, and you can find that different kind of happiness, which is more the proper happiness, longer lasting, that goes with that kind of simple life, and also the awareness that you can develop at the same time, self-awareness. So that's how simple and simpler life, as simple as possible, is still the solution for a happy, smooth, harmonious life compared to what is going on and has been implemented purposely to make everything more complicated, but for the sake of controlling more and more people, and so that people themselves have less and less control of their own mind.